That we get to tell the stories that are extremely important from a global perspective that most networks here in the United States won't even tell you about. For example, perfect example, yesterday, did you know, the Fortune 500 global list came out. It was released, and for the first time ever, the United States of America did not have the largest number of companies in it. That distinction was officially taken over by, you guessed it, China. So here we go. Of the top 500 companies in the entire world, 129 of them are now Chinese, while the U.S. has 121 companies in the Fortune 500 global list. Now, think about this as well, because this really puts it in perspective. So just 20 years ago, China had only 8 companies in the Fortune 500. 8 companies, like back in 1999. Talk about a surge, right? Talk about a change. But wait, there's even more, because I want to show you another list now. Our president, our politicians, and our media, they're constantly telling us how we're number one across the board, right? On everything, including banking. Now, while that would be nice, the problem is, it's not true. Here, I'm going to share with you the list of the top 10 largest banks in the entire world. Can you see this? Let's go with number 1, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, with revenues of $134 billion. Number 2, the China Construction Bank Corporation. Number 3, the Agricultural Bank of China. Number 4, the Bank of China. Number 5, that goes to the UK. HSBC Holdings. Number 6, this is where finally a U.S. bank finally shows up on the list, where 20 years ago we would have had the top 8, right? Which is JP Morgan. Number 7 is a French bank, BNP Paribas. Number 8 is Mitsubishi, Japanese. Number 9 is the Bank of America, and rounding out the top 10 is Crédit Agricole, which is also a French bank. I think I got those right. Nonetheless, I think you see the spirit of what we're trying to show you there, right? This is the truth about how the world is changing economically. And don't think for 1 minute that it doesn't affect our politics and that it doesn't affect our foreign policy, because it does, even if the rest of the media doesn't seem to want to be able to tell you about it. This is The News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it is time to do news again. Our lead story tonight is, as much as anything else, an opportunity to try and debunk the conventional wisdom that says that we as Americans have economic worldwide supremacy. There's a Spanish proverb that goes something like this: tell me what you brag about, and I'll tell you what you lack. Tell me what you brag about, and I'll tell you what you lack. That may be the case right now with our country. Not only with our president, but with our Congress and with our media as well. Because they're not really telling us the truth about our economic situation, and they should, right? Look, we all want to be optimistic. Of course we do. But there's a big difference between being optimistic and being misinformed. Joining us now is the co-host of Boom Bust, seen right here on RT America, my colleague, Christy I. By the way, congratulations. I mean, listen, you broke the story. You called it. You were first to report right here several weeks ago that Deutsche Bank was collapsing. And since then, I've seen nothing but collapsing. Am I wrong?
Not wrong at all. Deutsche Bank is not in good shape at all. In fact, they're facing $1 billion in redemption every single day. And there's $168 billion on the line right now that are all bailing out of the bank, asking to be withdrawn because they fear a liquidity run on the bank. This is actually very reminiscent of previously the Lehman Brothers. This is exactly what we had foreseen, that there is a crisis in confidence right now at Deutsche Bank.
It's amazing the way you were able to, with your sources, actually find out what was going on with that story. And since then, the whole world has been reporting, piggybacking off of your report right here. Well done, once again. All right, let's move on now to this Chinese situation. The latest reports have China literally dominating banking, passing us on the Fortune 500 global list. What are we to make of this, Christy?
Now, this is actually a very proud moment for China because for the first time ever since the global Fortune 500 list was created back in 1990, this is the first time that a nation other than the U.S. has dominated global big business. And this is a huge shift in both power, momentum, and technology. And it really shouldn't be a surprise because back in 2015, China actually laid out a plan called Made in China 2025. They actually laid out this entire plan to transform the nation from primarily a manufacturing factory of the world into a high-tech country, a consumer technology innovation-driven nation. Now, this was their ambition. They laid out their entire plan. It even highlighted the focuses and sectors that it was going to focus on, which include artificial intelligence, green tech, green energy, IT, semiconductors, telecom, etc. And when they laid out this plan, no one took them seriously. In fact, people actually mocked them. They said that China is too big, and no one has ever done this before. It's going to be a huge overhaul to change from manufacturing into high tech. It just can't be done. Their ship was too big, and China was going to fail. They're going to fall on their own sword because they had overinvested on its manufacturing efforts.
That's an amazing story, and they did it in like 2 decades. And the biggest mistake that the rest of the world made, and seemingly the United States as well, is we just doubted them. We didn't believe them. And now, what are we doing?
I mean, they had a right to be skeptical because no one has ever done this before. So now in 2019, China has made tremendous progress, and finally the U.S. has started to take notice. And because of that, a lot of Trump's policies have actually reflected their fear of China catching on. So a lot of Trump's policies were meant to slow China down, to stall them. And right now, China's trajectory in the last 20 years has been astounding. So it is impossible to pretend that this is just another big player when, in fact, China is the biggest player in the history of the world right now.
Lesson learned here is when someone tells you they're going to do something, maybe you should believe them, right?